I hear Australia has a serious problem with mice. It's almost like you need the Pied Piper to get rid of them. Let's look a little bit closer.
To be living every day with mice just makes you feel dirty.
It has been constant, it hasn't let up. The ground just moves with mice.
There's just no escaping them.
Now, I can tell you, I hate mice. I hate rats. When I finished college, didn't get into uni. Different side subject that is, but I got a job as a pest controller. Yeah, I absolutely hate mice and I hate rats. Just make your skin crawl.
This one will be probably the worst mouse plague I've ever been through. I've been through 3 others over the years. Hay in the hay shed where there's probably $50,000, $60,000 ruined. Grain stored in big plastic bags. They've eaten them and ruined them.
Jeez.
Everywhere they can go, they'll go. A lot of households have lost fridges and microwaves and all that where they've got in and chewed wiring and burnt them out.
Oh, Mickey, go!
So,
I'm assuming this is more of a countryside sort of problem at the moment. I bet lives are being ruined, especially the farmers and people like that. Their lives must be being ruined because the mice are infesting everything, and your basically your life's work is going down the drain.
same with cars, tractors, anything where they can get in, they'll get in and chew.
We've come out of a drought, and because things have suddenly got so good so quickly, rapid breeders like mice are really able to capitalise on that situation.
Oh, I bet. The problem is, it's almost like I think there's something in the UK that says, you're never more than a few meters away from a mouse or a rat, and they're disgusting, horrible creatures, in my opinion. Of course, if you're an animal lover, you might disagree, but they're nasty and they can get anywhere.
And it's going to take a while for the rest of the ecosystem to catch up and balance it out. The real economic damage is in the paddock. In Australia, most areas will only get one crop a year, and so to have a plague hit you in what would otherwise be a good year, it can be a real setback.
Bear in mind, they've just they've just said that you've been through a dry spell where the food probably isn't quite as good, then the profits for the farmers isn't as high, and then all of a sudden things get good and the crops are being destroyed. I bet it's devastating.
We're back to where we were nearly in the middle of the drought and lost a lot of money and heartache in between.
Oh, Christ.
We have mouse traps set in the house. We have bait stations set up outside the house, but that's only catching a portion of the mice that are still running around.
I expect that as quickly as you're catching them, the quicker they're breeding. You almost need just release a load of cats. Release a load of cats, a load of eagles, and predator birds. Like you said earlier, you almost need the predators to catch up, but that's going to be tough.
You can be in bed at night and you can actually hear them running around the bedroom, and you hear them rustling as they're running across the pillow.
No.
It is taking a toll on our sleep patterns because it's just unsettling.
Mouse going around there. Oh, welcome to Australia.
What I find interesting actually about this is I've also looked at the Great Emu War and things like that, and how the kangaroos, there's so many of them. It's actually interesting how it's almost our fault. It's almost our fault from having farmland, changing the land to create farmland, which is, granted, it's providing food for all of us, but it's also providing food for many other creatures and allowing them to overpopulate.
They're getting into kitchen cupboards and eating the food. They're also eating furniture. People have gone away and come back and the lounges have been destroyed.
Imagine that. You've been on holiday. This is could be quite comical, but you go and sit down on your chair and it just collapses around you. Oh, you've been getting in buckets. That is literally buckets of mouse bait and rat bait. Probably I think it was an anticoagulant. Yeah, that'll be an anticoagulant, which basically thins the capillaries and makes them bleed to death. They go looking for water. Normally when you give mice and rats anticoagulants like this, they go and try and find water, and therefore they leave the house because normally the water's outside. The odd occasion, it's devastating. I had it a couple of times when I was a pest controller where the mouse or the rats would go into the wall cavities and die. You can't get them out. You've just got to let them rot. Vile. And the smell, disgusting. Yeah, dead
There's
rats.
the smell of the live mice, but then there's the smell of the dead and decaying mice. And it's just horrific. It's horrible.
That's the one thing that gets me every time. Smelling mice and dead mice on the air. That's the sort of thing that wears you down more than anything.
Been there, mate. Not to that extent, but I know what they smell
Australian
like.
farming life, but it's getting harder and harder each year to keep going.
It's hard when you don't have a good night's sleep to get up and go again the next morning, but that's what we do.
Some tell me the mouse plague's gone, mate.
Eventually, they will get their own COVID, hopefully, that'll clean them up. But your predator numbers will eventually build back up to a point where the system recorrects.
You've got to feel sorry for these farmers living with it.
The drought took us down a very deep hole, and we're all just climbing the ladder one rung at a time, and some unfortunately may never ever get back to a position where they're financially viable.
You work your butt off all your life trying to keep everything going, feeding everyone and looking after the earth. They're just wiping everything out.
Devastating. Absolute devastating for the farmers. Farmers work hard. Some especially over here, they're well off enough. They've got plenty of land, and it's not always the financial problems, but it's the having to live with that. I feel desperately sorry for them, especially if it's just said they've come out of a drought thinking things are going to look up, and then all of a sudden this happens, and it's like, waiting for a bus, isn't it? Waiting for a bus, you wait for ages and two come along at once and hit you. I don't know if that's quite the right analogy, but anyway. Is there anything that the Aussies are able to do about it? It's all well and good just getting a lot of cats or a lot of predators in. Are you just hoping for the predators to naturally arrive? But then you've got loads of predators. You've got loads of those other animals. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's trying to find a right balance. Bait doesn't work because there's just too many of them. Yeah, that's desperately sad times, I suppose. And it's one of these things that is being shown all around the world. I purposely used the BBC World news clip because just to highlight that, yeah, even we're finding out about it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. I'll catch you next time.